Rev up your engines! Well, here's an interesting vehicle. A Honda Pilot with 206,000 miles on it. He bought it used. He's put over 100,000 miles on it. He paid like 12 grand used. Not bad for 100-something thousand miles, and it's still going strong. What's the truth behind these vehicles? Are they worth buying? Are they junk? Well, you're going to find out. All right, the Pilot. Originally, they made these in Canada, but now they make them in Alabama. Now, he has done some modifications, and it's stuff that I agree with. As we go under the hood, which is kind of an odd place, but there we go. He had it set up so it turned off that cylinder deactivation system so it didn't burn oil. The problem with these Honda engines is because of their tight tolerances. When you have variable cylinder deactivation, what happens is one piston side, that's hot, you deactivate it, that's cold, another one's hot. The expansion and contraction of the metal would make the actual pistons and the block itself, instead of being perfectly round, it would make it more oval shape so that it was no longer sealing right and they would burn oil. He was smart. He had that deactivated, so it's not burning any oil. I do advise people to do it with these engines. Some engines, it doesn't affect it as much, but these are aluminum and they're tight tolerances, and that difference in temperature equalization is hot, cold, when they all should be hot, does affect it. So I do advise turn it off. It still has a timing belt, and the brand new ones with this V6 engine also have rubber timing belts. Honda just didn't want to go into the 21st century. I don't know. I guess they're only planning on building them so long, they don't want to redesign it all. But come on now, you know, everyone else has used timing chains that can last forever, and even though these run good, if those belts break, they're interference engines. Pistons hit the valves, boom, there goes the engine. He's had a timing belt change, so he doesn't have to worry about it. It generally lasts well over 100,000 miles. It's just kind of an annoyance that Honda kept such an old design because they're too cheap to put timing chains in them and redesign the whole thing. Maybe they're thinking electric cars and then they won't make these anymore, but really, Honda, join the 21st century. Put timing chains in your V6 engines, you know? Hey, let's face the facts. You got timing chains in your four-cylinder engines. Why don't you put them in the V6s too? Now, the owner of this also has a Yukon. He still has it, but the Yukon kept falling apart on him, so he thought he'd get something more reliable, so he bought this Honda Pilot. He's got 100-something thousand miles he's put on it, and he only paid 12 grand for it, so he's certainly getting his money worth out of it. Now, he says it's not the perfect vehicle, but yeah, it served him pretty well. As of this year, the paint's starting to chip off. Here we go. The paint indeed is coming off because, you know, this is one of the early jobs. They started using that water-based primer crap, and so the paint's starting to come off. Hey, the plating on the alloy wheels, it looks kind of crappy. But considering that it lives on the East Coast, hey, all the salt they use in the winter. Now, he has had to replace the ball joints on it twice because he originally replaced them and he had them replaced with Moog. And everybody who knows about suspension parts, Moog was a really good suspension company. Moog suspension parts, everybody liked them. But as he found out, he replaced these, because they do rust out from the salt they put on the road in the winter. He replaced them with Moogs, but 3 years later they broke again. And he said, well, that's okay, because Moog have lifetime warranties. Well, they don't anymore. He had a 3-year guarantee and they broke, showing that, yes, indeed, they don't make them like they used to, including Moog. So Moog, maybe you can make them a little better, but you probably don't care at all, because you're probably making everything in China cheaper, and you're making so much money, you don't care. But back in the day, he would have been correct. All the Moog suspension parts that I've replaced, if you go back 10 years or further, and I've been working on cars for 56 years, I never had to buy another one from Moog. But then again, I did live in Texas. And the salt is in the ocean, not on the road, so they don't really rust much. They sell hundreds of thousands of these every year. And as I said earlier, this baby was made in Alabama. Now really, the leather seats have held up pretty well. He's a big man and he squashed them down a little here, but they're not torn. And the back seats are in primo condition. And there's a lot of room in the back when you fold those back seats in. He's got these nice Motor Trend rubber covers, and there's the seats. They come up. And there's a reasonable amount of room for the seats when they pop up. And as we look inside, it's got a DVD CD player, you know. There's a DVD, there's a CD player, AM, FM, but it still has USB aux stuff on it. Hasn't worn out yet, a lot of space in there. And it's even got this little roll Rolodex type thing. You can put more crap in there too. So hook up our Autel here. Older vehicle, this Autel is fast. It's already read it. We'll do standalone diagnosis. Pilot 2012, okay. Older car, this Autel is pretty good. It will do a topology, all the CAN systems, so here we go. And what's going through them? Got a nice setup. Tach to the side, fuel temperature gauge, speedometer right in the middle, little warning system here, nice dash unit. And it's got the map and everything on it. I personally use a phone. Phones are more accurate as far as I know, but it's got best route and all that stuff if you keep the software upgraded. But you can see it's got a little attachment here for power, and then he's plugged in as double USB. Now it's done. He didn't think there were any codes because his scan tool didn't pick up anything, but there are 3 codes. It probably won't mean much, just since he did have the cylinder manager system deactivated, so they're all running all the time. He'll probably have a code for that. Number 1 trouble code is powertrain system failure. That's because he had that deactivated, and it knows that. I'll erase it, but it'll certainly come right back because it knows that that's been disabled. And then there's the last code, the tire pressure monitoring system. Right rear tire pressure sensor failure, left rear tire pressure sensor failure. They get all the batteries wear out. Who wants to spend money on that stuff? We'll erase it, but that one most certainly will come back. But now we'll start the car and we will check out the main information. So we'll go to PCM, get that data. We'll go to live data and we'll start analyzing that. Remember, black is good, red is bad. Fuel ratio is pretty good. 1 is perfect, that's perfect. A little bit over, a little bit under. Running pretty good considering that this thing does have 206,692 miles on it. Air fuel ratio is almost perfect. 1 is perfect, 0.99 to 1.01. Pretty close to perfect for a car. It's got this many miles on it. It's a Honda. You can see the misfire, 000. 654321000, running perfectly. So here we go, and it's got a backup camera. It's an older car, so it's not particularly well pixelated, or the color doesn't work all that good, but you get a pretty good idea where you're going when you're backing up. Hey, it's high, and since it's so big, it won't be too bad on these horrendous Rhode Island roads. You can feel we're going over it, but it's a very smooth ride. It's not like a regular Honda that's a lot tighter. These have a much cushier ride, which is one of the reasons that people like buying them. Realize this is just like a brother of an Acura MDX. It's the same basic platform. You know the time of the day, you can't miss it there. The horrible intersection, but nobody's coming. Here we go. Once it gets going, transmission shifts like a dream. Hey, it's still going smooth. 200-something thousand miles. And here comes an ambulance. So we better get over to the other side. Not much of an ambulance. He's going like a turtle. He's not even catching up to us. Well, I guess these days, if you're in a hurry, you're better off driving yourself. Here comes the ambulance. So we'll go over here. Still a very smooth vehicle. And really, for its size, he get 22 miles a gallon. Yeah, not the greatest, but it's a big, heavy vehicle. He also has a Yukon, which gets 15 to 17 on a highway and much worse in town. And unlike this dependable Honda, it's not that dependable. That's why he bought the Honda. He kept it because he can tow stuff with it, but hey, the Honda's much more reliable. So there you have it, a Honda Pilot, 206,000 miles. Still runs like a top. Sure, it's not perfect, but to me it's like the perfect old work SUV. Man, his wife had to thank me for letting him bring it over here because she forced him to clean it out. I suppose it was a gigantic mess before he bought it here. You did see under that Rolodex, there's still a bunch of crap hiding in there. But, hey, a great work SUV still. Who knows how long it'll last? It's a Honda. And now it still shifts good. The engine runs fine. But he did disable the cylinder deactivation. And if you do get one of these, my advice is do the same thing he did. Get it deactivated. Then you won't warp the internals of the engine, and you won't have any problem with them burning oil. If you hadn't deactivated that, I've never seen one of these with 200-something thousand that didn't burn oil if they left that system in. And here's some bonus questions and answers. JS Pen 22 says, I'm replacing a brake line on my 04 Silverado. It needs a new line from the ABS module all the way to the rear axle. I've heard I can block the brake pedal halfway down and won't lose any fluid while the line is off. Is this accurate? Not really. It'll still drip. When you cut the old line off, it's open to the air. You're going to get air in the system. That's just the way that it goes. Now, if you want, when you take the front part off of the ABS module, if you can get some kind of blocking thread, like if you can get a thread that fits in there, put a little PCV tape on it, put it in the hole on the ABS modulator where it goes, you're not going to lose hardly any fluid in that part. You still get air in the rest, and you'll have to bleed it out, but at least the ABS system would remain stable because you would have something threaded in there that doesn't leak. Then you wouldn't have to worry about the ABS module filling up with air. But you're still going to lose fluid if you just take it off, no matter what you do with that pedal, because it's going to start dripping. It's just the fluid, and it's the line's pulled off of one part. It's going to drip out. That's what gravity does. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.